As sure as spring will follow winter, prosperity and economic growth will follow recession. Hello everyone, I am Shalini and you are watching Voice Apart. Today we will be taking a look whether India is safe or not from the massive global recession wave which is just around the corner and may hit global economies drastically. In this video we will see why economists believe that India might benefit from this recession wave. And can India finally recover from the setbacks of this pandemic? So before we begin on this topic, let us first understand what is recession and what it actually means. In economics, recession is defined as 2 consecutive quarters of economic contraction. The recession could be indicated by a fall in GDP and rise in unemployment rates of any economy. In simple terms, the word recession refers to the period of business cycle wherein there is a steady decline in the commercial activities due to certain reasons. The reasons are somewhat interlinked but are not always the same. They include loss of confidence amongst the consumer in purchasing products, which increase the demands of the products, which can lead to the disruption in price level of the economy. Weak or low supply of goods and services. Excessive inflation. That is, the general price level is high and people cannot afford to buy the products. Hiked in interest rate can also be the reason, which makes it expensive for consumers to borrow money. This means that consumers are less likely to spend, especially on major purchases like houses or cars. Stable wage price ratio can also be the reason when there is a huge gap between what you earn and what is the price of the product in the market that can lead to very low consumer spending. Deflation can also be the reason. The opposite of inflation is deflation. This is when the product and asset prices falls because of the large drop in demand. And as the demand falls, so do the prices as sellers try to attract the buyers. Consumers see this downtrend and will wait for those prices to fall further, which automatically reduces the demand. But what will happen if an economy such as India would undergo a major slump? We need to understand that recession does not occur out of the blue. Rather, it is a part of cycle and is spread across a time frame. It is not just a result of just one particular economic measure, but is a combination of many different factors and reasons that we have already discussed earlier. So recession in the long run can cause major setbacks, where we can see major shifts and rapid intense change in the consumer behavior happening, and this unwanted situation can lead to following events in the growing economy like India. Firstly, there will be economic slowdown. During recession, the economic activities like trade and commerce depletes. This means that businesses are producing less and consumers' spending got declined by the major portion. When people do not buy things, the money flowing in the economy stops, but the fixed expenses are intact. Hence, the production cost increases in relation to the revenue, which further leads to layoffs of employees. We have seen such cases in large MNCs like Oracle, Microsoft and startups too that have shed workers since the start of 2022. Also, so far 11,363 employees have been laid off by 34 startups, which includes unicorns such as Vedantu, Cars24, Ola, Meesho, MPL and Unacademy as well. With 11 edtech startup laying off about 4,068 employees in the 2022 alone. Now the second major thing which is so certain during the recession is the stock market decline. This is when the value of the stock goes down and the people started losing their money. This leads to investors losing their confidence in the market. However, it becomes a great time to put money in the market if you want to buy stocks at the low prices. Sensex has fallen around 8% in 2022 so far, which is 3 times less than the US market that tumbled at 26%. During recession time, it's always been seen that the investors started showing lack of confidence in the market due to various economic events and which result in major selling of stakes by foreign institutional investors as well who hold the major chunk in the market. Further, there is rise in the Federal Reserve interest rate as well during recession to try to slow down the economy, and rising interest rate can make it even more difficult for businesses to borrow money as they are already suffering from such bad consumer responses, and this drastic situation will lead to the inflation in short span of time. Now also the Reserve Bank of India has increased the key lending rate, which is the repo rate, that is the rate at which RBI lends money to the banks, by 50 basis point, which is 5.40%, and this increase is the highest since 2019. The most obvious and the most dangerous event which takes place during recession is the rising unemployment. This happens when people started losing their jobs as businesses try to cut down their cost. This can be a very difficult time for families as their income has declined but the expenses have been increased due to rising inflation. India's unemployment rate in June 2022 spiked at 7.80%. However, this is significantly low than what it was during the pandemic in 2020, where we reached an all-time high of 23.50%. The final thing that happens is inflation. Inflation plays one of the major factors in rising recession in any country. Basically, inflation is a situation which occurs when the prices of the goods would go up, but the income level of the citizens does not rise. This can be a problem for businesses as well as they try to maintain their profit margins, but due to buying behavior of the consumers, they cannot even meet their break-even level. All the economic measures that we have discussed imply that India will get hit by recession and our economy is on the verge of spiraling downwards. But let me tell you, it is not the case. I quote this statement so because of the following reasons. Let's analyze it together whether India can hit inflation or not. So Indian GDP is showing a growth of 8% to 8.5% for the first quarter in financial year 2022-23. This has been confirmed by our Minister of Finance and Corporate Affairs Mrs. Nirmala Seetharaman as well, which is very healthy considering it is just the first quarter only. Not only this, according to the recent survey conducted by Bloomberg, suggested that India has zero chances of recession. Yes, 0% chances of recession. So how do we believe looking at this rising prices of goods and services everywhere, right? But the report further states that amongst the Asian economies, Sri Lanka, which is in the midst of the worst economic crisis ever, has the highest probability of about 85% of falling into the recession in the next year. Similarly, other Asian economies like South Korea and Japan have 25% chances of severe recession, whereas countries like Pakistan, Philippines and Indonesia are at 28 and 3% respectively. But ladies and gentlemen, do keep this in mind that the same Bloomberg survey gave the prediction of the US recession at 38% within the next 12 months, which was at 0% just a few months before. So we must consider other factors as well before trusting it. RBI commented that the Indian economy has shown resilience amid fears of recession and war across the global landscape. Similar to the Bloomberg survey, other such report which should be analyzed thoroughly is the one which is brought forward by Nomura, which is a Japanese financial holding company. As per the reports of Nomura, the forthcoming global recession would affect some of the economies to a greater extent, like the US economic fall would be shallow, but it would be in a long terms of duration. That is, the revival and recovery which may take a considerable amount of time, we can say that at least 5 quarters. The Federal Reserve, which is the central bank of US, has also now been focusing all its attention towards lowering the inflation rate. RBI on the other hand has taken the laid-back approach when it comes to cooling off increased price level in the market. The report also sheds light upon how the European nations will be affected, and it goes on to suggest that Europe would see a deeper fall and it may increase further if Russia decides to cut ties with the Europe or EU. Furthermore, the report also paints a picture for Asian economies, where it states that the most affected will be the South Korea and then Japan, which is undergoing political turmoil and policy rejection. China remains the odd one out, which is recovering from recession as the economy unlocks amid accommodative policies. In the research note, Nomura underlines several mid-sized economies including Australia, Canada and South Korea that have a huge debt-fueled housing booms. They are at the risk of deeper than forecast recession if interest rate hikes triggers housing burst and deleveraging. So when all of the outer economies are looking forward to face a downward slope, the important question over here is India safe? Greg Swenson, founding partner of Brick Macadam that deals with providing investment banking to energy and infrastructure products, delivered a statement that most of the world economies are already in recession, mainly due to pullback in consumer spending, and the spending is falling because of the elevated inflation and high energy prices as well. As far as his opinion is concerned, he emphasizes on reducing inflation so as to shorten the duration of recession by increasing supply to the level of demand in the market. The concept he underlines is that the increased supply would lower the general prices level. From the Bloomberg survey and RBI's press release, we can easily deduce the following reasons as to why India has the surprising zero chances of facing recession, and here are the reasons. Number one reason is healthy agricultural output and good monsoon. For the coming year, India can bank upon every apt agricultural produce in the backdrop of good monsoon, which has helped nourishing crops yield. Also, farmers in North were successful in retracing the farm laws. We can expect their hard work paying off with sufficient food grain stock in buffer storage. Number second is rise in manufacturing and service sector. Finance Ministry promised support to the manufacturing sector, especially MSMEs, and undoubtedly the Union Budget 2022 acted as a booster shot for MSME sector. Where in Union Budget we can see the extension of relief packages to MSME, enhancement of guarantee cover by as high as 50,000 crores. Number third is energy solutions. India was smart in strengthening the ties with Russia, being the part of BRICS. That is Brazil, Russia, India, China and South Africa, where India is the part of the strongest powerful group of the world's leading emerging market economies. Starting off from April this year, Russia became one of the major suppliers of goods for India. The crude oil imports increased manifold. Also, Russia was able to provide a significant amount of coal for energy as well. Soya bean, sunflower oil and fertilizers and other major goods have also been imported from Russia. Reason being, they are cheap alternative in the current scenario. Oil was cheaper by $36 per barrel than Brent, which means India is saving approximately $27.5 million of its oil import each day. Consequently, according to the report from IMF, the projected growth rate in Asia is about 4%, but India has its growth rate of about 7.4%, which is highest in any country due to surging crude oil prices. An independent researcher and analyst who said that India currently is sitting at the very favorable joint and can easily avoid falling into recession because of the following reasons. Number one is India is neutral in war and global dynamics, which is disrupting the global commerce. Number second point is India has a key role in electronic and financial marketable platforms, which could be beneficial, that too with a strong agricultural base. Number third point is India can capitalize on being neutral and blocking away geopolitical rival China and increasing commercial activities with Russia. Having discussed it all, do we see India actually surviving the upcoming recession, let alone benefiting from it? However, there are some concerns for Indian economy as well, like shortage of essential goods, high prices which might come down starting October as prompted by the Shaktikanta Das, governor of RBI, weaker rupee which has been causing several damage to forex reserves, capital flight from India to US due to higher interest rate. At last, it's important to know that Italian Prime Minister Mario Draghi, who himself is an economist and a banker, looks forward to strengthening ties with India and Germany as well. Let's see how it goes. After all, who knows, we might see a trifecta of economies joining hands in order to survive the global recession. What do you think about it? Let me know in the comment section below. Thank you so much.